Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Gina Ippolito, and this is a breakdown of the trailer for X-Men 97 Season 2, coming July 1st to Disney+. Before I get into all the details and Easter eggs you might have missed, we here at New Rockstars are excited to announce that we'll be at IGN Live in LA on Sunday, June 7th. We'll be recording a live episode of our Road to Doomsday rewatch series, 2016's Captain America Civil War. IGN Live will be packed with reveals, exclusives, and giveaways all weekend. Visit ign.com/live for more info and use code NEWROCKSTARS10 for $10 off your ticket. Okay, so the trailer opens with the sounds of violins. This is a cover of Two Steps from Hell's Moving Mountains, and it actually played over an international trailer for X-Men First Class.
Name's Xavier. Charles Xavier. How do you do?
Someone I lost.
Nightcrawler, Rogue, Beast, and Bishop stand in the shadow of a burned-out circular crater, with Magneto standing on a jutting piece of rock above them. Inside the circle, the Disney Plus logo appears. In the Season 1 finale, following the events of the near-extinction event caused by the falling asteroid M, this group, plus Charles Xavier, ended up in Egypt in 3000 BC, the start of En-Sabah-Nur's reign, before he would become Apocalypse. Jean and Cyclops ended up in 3960 AD, and it wasn't clear when or where Storm, Morph, and Wolverine were, but we know they were missing from the current-day timeline because Forge was keeping track of all the missing mutants on his board and trying to track them down. On that same board, Jubilee and Sunspot were listed as AWOL, as was Cable. The showrunner of the time, Bo DeMeo, tweeted that Morph, Storm, and Wolverine were in one of the two timelines, meaning 3000 BC or 3960 AD. But after he was let go, it's very possible that storylines for Season 2 changed a bit. The new showrunner is Matthew Chauncey, and Disney clearly has a lot of faith in the show since it's already been renewed for a third and fourth season. And they're reportedly working to shorten the wait between seasons, which is why those renewals have already been announced so that everyone can officially get to work. Rogue sadly says that it's hard to believe what's not waiting for her. She's obviously referring to Gambit, and she takes his Queen of Hearts card, the card that represents her and his love for her. It's charred at the edges. It's not clear who is handing it to her, but they're wearing a long brown or yellow trench coat and some clear X-Men gear. She flashes back through some of their happy memories. Her seeing him on Genosha, this is from Season 1, Episode 5, Remember It, right after Nightcrawler tells Gambit that his and Rogue's souls touch with every gaze. Then there's her covering his mouth to kiss him during a basketball game from the Season 1 intro, which was an homage to the Jim Lee 1991 X-Men #4 panel where Gambit tries to kiss Rogue during a game of basketball. We saw this in the intro to Episode 3, Fire Made Flesh. Then Rogue warms her hands over a fire with the image of that kiss lingering over the flames for a beat. And then we get the Marvel Animation title card. It switches from red with the animated Spider-Man flying through, to purple with Zombie Scarlet Witch from Marvel Zombies, to blue with the Gambit and Wolverine fastball special variation power move team up we saw in the Season 1 premiere, to Me, My X-Men. It flashes right as Gambit's face reaches the screen, and then we're with Magneto standing and watching the construction, or perhaps the destruction, of an Egyptian temple. Then the group walks through the temple with Beast manually pushing Charles in his wheelchair. Then they're in some room in the temple with tech that sparkles with blue lightning electricity. Bishop narrates,
"The X-Men are scattered through time. In the past, from the start of Apocalypse's reign, to the future, at the height of his rule."
Okay, so we see it cut to Rama-Tut standing and looking out over the tech-influenced Egyptian city. Rama-Tut is a variant of Nathaniel Richards' Reader. Other variants include Kang and Immortus. Immortus also appeared in the original X-Men the Animated Series run. He was first introduced disguised as Bender in the 4th season Beyond Good and Evil run. Bender was the custodian of the axis of time where all timelines converge, and he helped guide a lost-in-time bishop. Apocalypse had captured all the powerful mutant psychics and was attempting to recreate the entire universe in his image. Bender was essentially hiding from Apocalypse in the Axis, and after the X-Men and the Psychics stopped Apocalypse and trapped him in the present, Bender revealed his true form as Immortus to the audience. In the original X-Men the Animated Series, Apocalypse was voiced by John Colicos. He played Balter in the OG 70s Battlestar Galactica. In Season 5, James Blendick took over voicing the character in The Fifth Horseman and Descent. Colicos passed away in 2000. In X-Men 97, Ross Marquand plays older Apocalypse, and Adetocumbo McCormick plays the younger version. He's a very prolific voice actor, and he also played Yemi on Lost, for all you Lost fans like me out there. Young En-Sabah-Nur pulls his red face mask over his mouth as a line of men on horseback stand behind him. I'm pretty sure these are the Sandstormers, a tribe of raiders who believe in the survival of the fittest. Rama-Tut was part of that tribe at one point, and they later took in En-Sabah-Nur as one of their own. He and his army cut down enemies in gold armor. Then it cuts to Charles, who's walking, and it seems like he's skipping through time at different points in Apocalypse's history. He stands in front of an Egyptian tomb with waves crashing in front of it. This might be taking place on the astral plane, something we saw in the original series when Charles battled the Shadow King. That's basically a realm where telepaths can go to fight it out in psychic combat. Then it flashes, and that tomb has been transformed into a very Blade Runner-looking futuristic structure with airships flying above it and what could be dead worshippers or sacrifices piled high in front of it, twisted and mangled. Apocalypse needs long periods of sleep, and basically he uses his tomb to hibernate while his followers guard it from intruders. Then there's Jean and Cyclops with young Nathan Summers, who will grow up to be the mutant Cable, who is technically the kid of Cyclops and Madeline Pryor, the genetic clone of Jean created by Mr. Sinister. We saw that storyline in season 1. Scott seems to be wearing his X-Factor costume here, and it's hard to see what Jean is wearing, but it looks X-Factory to me as well. Apocalypse says this:
I must strike them at their most vulnerable, the 1990s.
I almost spit out my Saturday morning breakfast cereal right here because yes, 90s X-Men is the best X-Men. Original animated series, great comics, successful run. A ship from above blasts a blue beam down into an Egyptian city, obliterating it and its terrified fleeing citizens. Beast, Bishop, Rogue, Charles, bearded Magneto, and Nightcrawler assemble in their superhero poses, each clearly ready to use their powers and skills. Then we get a shot of Apocalypse after his change from En Sabanur, and his eyes glow pink. He drops down in front of some futuristic tech looking extremely terrifying. And then we see Lorna Dane, the mutant Polaris, who is Magneto's other daughter. She has a different mother than Wanda and Pietro Maximoff. Polaris has the same powers of magnetism that her father does. She was in the original animated series, and it kind of looks like she's walking into the X-Mansion here. She looks at some framed pictures. There's one of her with Bobby Drake, Iceman. These two dated before she eventually went on to marry Havoc, Alex Summers, Scott's brother. In the comics, Iceman came out as gay sometime after that. There's also a photo of her with Jean and Storm, and one of her with the first X-Men class, which includes Charles, Scott, Jean when she was going by Marvel Girl, Beast, Angel, who I'll get into in a second, and Iceman. There's also a surge protector, some Christmas lights, candles, and a very 90s style Hot Topic black studded belt. Then we see Morph with Wolverine, who's in his 80s Uncanny X-Men John Byrne designed yellow and brown outfit. In season 1, it was heavily implied that Morph is in love with Wolverine, and in fact at one point he morphed into Jean at Wolverine's hospital bedside and, as Jean, said, "I love you." And here he continues flirting with him.
Could have at least bought me a drink first.
Thanks to Mint Mobile for sponsoring today's video. If you've ever lost your phone, you know how much you need a phone. What you might not know is that you can get premium wireless plans for way less than you're paying now if you switch to Mint Mobile. One of our producers just switched to Mint Mobile last month, and they saved so much money they've started regularly bringing in pastries for the office, which, hey, thanks. But also, if you switch to Mint Mobile, you can have pastry money. If you're not on Mint Mobile, you're getting ripped off. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month. No stores, no salespeople, just your phone, your plan, and money back in your pocket. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless without the premium price tag. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited talking and texting on the nation's largest 5G network, plus free calling to Mexico, Canada, and the UK. Mint Mobile provides 5G coverage to 98% of Americans and 4G LTE coverage to 99% of Americans. Plus, Mint lets you choose the data amount that's right for you, so you don't overpay for something one size fits all. You can select from 5 gigabytes, 15 gigabytes, 20 gigabytes, or unlimited data each month. If you have an unlocked phone you'd like, you can use it. Otherwise, you can shop the latest phones with Mint. Either way, you can keep your phone number and all your existing contacts when you switch. And Mint Mobile makes switching easy. You can sign up and activate in minutes with eSIM from the comfort of your home. If you run into trouble, Mint's got your back. 96% of users rate themselves as highly satisfied with Mint's customer care. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/newrockstars. That's mintmobile.com/newrockstars. mintmobile.com/newrockstars. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5 gigabyte plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Jean gives herself Wolverine claws using her telekinetic powers. She's done this occasionally in the comics. She puts them in front of Cyclops' face and then uses them to refract his optic blasts into many beams. Here, they're both in their 2000s Grant Morrison new X-Men costumes. Then Sunspot and Jubilee do a special move team up the way Gambit and Wolverine did last season. Sunspot flies Jubilee in and flings her as she unleashes her plasmoid powers and a punch. It looks like they're still in the present day timeline here. Then Bishop gives his giant gun a flip and shoot, and Nightcrawler teleports all over the place to kick the ass of these guys with archery equipment in red and yellow robes. Forge and Bishop team up to bring the X-Men back together and to their correct timeline. They did something similar in the original animated series Days of Future Past storyline. Forge sent Bishop back in time to prevent a horrific future from happening. Then it cuts cuts to young Nathan with Storm and Mother Ascani, who we met briefly at the very end of last season. At this point, Nathan has the technovirus contained to just his arm, and it looks like he's charging it up here in this blue light. It's not totally clear from the trailer what's going on with Storm, or if she's locked into just one of the timelines or is traveling between them. Okay, this is a little bit of a spoiler if you're unfamiliar with the comic storyline, but Mother Ascani is actually Rachel Summers, Scott and Jean's daughter from an alternate timeline. Nathan trains with her and is part of a prophecy that deals with the downfall of Apocalypse, so this might be a bit of that story here. It cuts to Nathan as an adult, as Cable, looking out at some ongoing devastation, which could be him trying to repeatedly stop what happened on Genosha. And then there's Storm whipping around what looks like fire. I saw some people online asking if this was her harnessing the power of the Phoenix, but in addition to being able to manipulate weather, Storm can also actually harness the power of the sun and manipulate weather on other planets and solar winds, so I think that's what's likely going on here. There's a shot of the bug sentinel that Master Mold sent in to attack Genosha, incapacitated after Gambit sacrificed himself to take it out. Then we get our first view of Colossus holding the dead body of his sister, Ilyana, the mutant magic, who was played by Anya Taylor-Joy in the criminally underrated New Mutants movie from 2020. We saw Ilyana in an episode of the original animated series, but she was still just a little girl there, and there was no indication that she had her powers yet. We later see a memorial for the people killed on Genosha that includes a photo of Magic, and if you look closely, you can also see one for Marrow as well. There's a series of quick shots, some robots descending on a tall building with an X logo on it. Then the mutant with the red skin and glowing eyes is Exodus, who hasn't appeared in the animated series yet, the past one or the current one. He's a character from the 90s comics run who was a French crusader turned into Exodus by Apocalypse. Then we see the robot Danger. She was created during the 2000s Joss Whedon run. She's an android who's the physical embodiment of the Danger Room, the training room for the X-Men, and like the room itself, she can adapt to any threat and change as the situation needs it. Then we see adult Cable polishing his gun because dude loves that gun. He looks at his reflection in the surface, and then it cuts to the reflection of Scott and Jean in his mirror as he turns to look at them. Rogue says, "This isn't just about us," and we see more quick cuts. Young Nathan hugging Cyclops while Jean looks on, seeming concerned. Then Rogue, Beast, Nightcrawler, and I think that's Colossus maybe in the middle in the cape. The only other one it could be who's that big would be Apocalypse. That doesn't really make sense to me. They visit the memorial I mentioned earlier for the victims of the Genosha attack. We see a sign reading "Never Forget," and there's a photo of Gambit right there in the center. In the next shot, Rogue seems to be looking up at it. Then there's Jubilee crying over something or someone, which makes me worried for Sunspot because he seems to be the obvious one here, and maybe he doesn't make it out of this season alive. Charles floats, again, possibly through the astral plane here. Then there's some hieroglyphics on a wall with images of Apocalypse, Charles, Magneto, Beast, Rogue, Nightcrawler, and who I assume is Bishop. And then a shot of a hieroglyphic of Apocalypse sitting in a chair surrounded by skulls. This might be in his rejuvenation chamber where he takes his long periods of rest to restore himself. Then it cuts to a dinosaur roaring, so I'm assuming this is in the Savage Land. We saw this a bunch in the OG animated series and a little bit in this series in season 1 with the Rogue and Magneto flashback romance storyline. Then there's a shot of Storm calling down the lightning, and it cuts to Morph, and he's fighting what appears to be the Brood. They're a race of parasitic aliens who look a lot like the xenomorphs from Alien. They basically consume anything they come into contact with. Morph morphs into Deadpool, which we've seen him do before. Then it cuts to Psylocke, who, depending on what day of the week it is, can either be good or evil. Behind her is Archangel. That's Warren Worthington III, and in the original run he sought out a cure for being a mutant. He was, at that point, the mutant angel. But instead of getting a cure, he got turned into Apocalypse's horseman Death. He eventually broke free of Apocalypse's control and tried to get revenge on him. Then we see Rogue with Beast and Nightcrawler fighting her way towards a giant open Apocalypse statue mouth that's blasting out light. A series of more quick cuts show the mutants gearing up. Charles touching his temple, his psychic abilities clearly on display. Polaris glowing green, gearing up to use her powers of magnetism. Beast looking particularly scowly. Magneto sporting a couple of new facial scars. Emma Frost in her Hellfire Club costume. Last season, she got her secondary power of diamond hard skin for the first time after the attack on Genosha. Storm holds out her hand while floating in the clouds. Scott with his visor reflecting back. Then Jean with her blue psychic glow holding up her hand to touch another. Rogue and Nightcrawler hug. These two are step-siblings since Mystique was Kurt's mother and Rogue's adoptive mother. Then we see Polaris unleashing the full force of her powers, and around her are several mutants we didn't see in season 1. They're all members of Generation X, the next-gen teenage mutant team. Here we see Sync. He can duplicate the powers of other mutants around him. Then there's Quentin Quire, the mutant Kid Omega, wearing what looks like a Magneto was right t-shirt. He's an Omega-level telepathic and telekinetic mutant. The guy in the back next to the person in the gurney is Chamber, Jonathan Starsmore. He has some telepathic abilities and energy projections. I'm not sure who the person on the gurney is. There's Penance, or M, or Monet St. Croix. She has some telepathic abilities, diamond hard skin, and claws. Bishop is here too. Emma Frost took over over running Generation X for a time. Next, it cuts to Archangel firing his wing projectiles at someone. Then Nightcrawler and Exodus sword fight. Nightcrawler is a master fencer, and this dude knows his way around a sword. When he says, "I believe in the X-Men," you can see his priest's collar, which means he has now officially entered the priesthood at this point. There's the Heroes Assemble roundup shot, and the whole crew is here. Beast, Morph, Cyclops, Archangel, Storm, Jean, Wolverine, Forge, Cable, Jubilee, and Sunspot. But notably, no Magneto or Charles. There are so many different costume variations from so many different eras in this trailer, and we see a bunch of them here. Then the X-Men 97 Season 2 logo blasts onto the screen, and we end it with the money shot. Wolverine with green blood or goo on his adamantium claws, giving the camera the come hither finger motion, a recreation of the 1982 Wolverine #1 comics cover. Last season, when he was being controlled by Bastion, Magneto ripped all the adamantium from Wolverine's skeleton, so at some point he must have had it fused back on, which I'm guessing means we're gonna get at least one Weapon X journey or flashback story this season. Now, I saved a little comic spoiler for the very end. You may have noticed that there is no Gambit in this trailer, which makes sense since we saw him, die last season. But for those who demand more Gambit, which includes me since that is the name I gave my cat, in the comics, after Gambit dies, Apocalypse brings him back as the Horseman Death, and eventually he comes back to life and back to himself. Original animated series showrunners Erica and Julie Lewald, who serve as executive producers on 97, recently said in an interview that they couldn't confirm whether Gambit will come back, but that the fans are picking up on some breadcrumbs, and I'm guessing that we're gonna see Death Gambit before the end of the season, maybe at the very end for what we can expect in Season 3. That's it for this X-Men 97 Season 2 trailer breakdown. Go over to nerdriot.shop to check out our sweet merch, including 2 new mutant-focused designs that just dropped. Buying some merch is the best way to support the channel. Comment down below with your thoughts. A special thanks to Dante, one of our NR Underground subscribers, for supporting us at the executive producer level. Get all of our exclusive bonus content by clicking the link in the description below or going to nrunderground.supercast.com. Big thanks to Studio Tech Brian Kim, New Rockstars editors Josh Hurd and Abby Freel, and all our supporting editors for their work on this video. Follow me everywhere at Gina Ippy and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Bye.